During his midnight swearing-in ceremony on New Year's Day, Zohran Mamdani, in his very first move as mayor, announced Mike Flynn as the city's new transportation commissioner. Flynn had previously spent more than 2 decades working in transportation and urban planning, including almost a decade at City DOT in various roles during the Bloomberg administration. Commissioner Flynn joins me now for the very first time on Inside City Hall. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on.
So let me ask you first about the storm preps. Obviously, the sanitation department does a lot of the heavy lifting with the snow removal and so forth, but you got a lot to worry about too between the roads and the bridges and the ferries. What are the impacts that you have to deal with this storm?
Absolutely. We play a strong supporting role. We've been getting prepped for a couple days now. There'll be thousands of city staff out there salting and de-icing. At DOT, we're coordinating closely with our partners, especially sanitation. We provide extra plows to them. We also go and clear the pedestrian and bike paths on the bridges, pedestrian plazas, some other public spaces. Staten Island Ferry, we're expecting to keep running through the storm, but obviously we'll be monitoring conditions and we'll let New Yorkers know if that's going to change. So we're ready. We have a great team. More than anything, I would strongly encourage New Yorkers to stay off the roads if you can. Stay home, stay safe.
Yeah, sounds like you're going to be working through the weekend. So I had mentioned the midnight swearing in on New Year's Day of Zohran Mamdani. You were right there with him. I think you had the grandest introduction of any of Mamdani's appointees there at the City Hall, the old decommissioned City Hall station. Talk about how that happened. I mean, you probably were expecting more of a sort of humdrum news conference to announce your appointment, right?
It was very humbling. It was really exciting. As a lifelong transit nerd, to that City Hall station is just this incredible testament to what government can achieve, what we can achieve with transit and how we can improve people's lives. That came together from my perspective. It was a bit of a whirlwind, but it was really exciting. And I think it was a testament to how this mayor and his administration see transportation being so critical to New Yorkers' daily lives, making a more affordable city, a safer city, saving time, and ultimately saving lives.
And by the way, just in terms of how you got hired, I read that you had no connection to Zohran Mamdani. You just submitted your resume like everybody else did through the hiring portal.
I did submit my resume. I'm always having conversations with people about policy. It's my passion. It's not a huge industry. So I was having conversations with the team and trying to, going back a while, really trying to help think of ideas that can really move the needle for the city. So, I think it was a really transparent and egalitarian hiring process, and it was just really thrilling and humbling to be selected.
Let's talk about fast and free buses, which is, of course, one of the mayor's big campaign promises. Free buses, you don't have a lot of say in. That's really up to the MTA and the state.
Right.
Fast buses, you do have some say in. You guys obviously control the roads and the street lights. That seems to me like maybe the harder part of the equation. I mean, people have been trying to speed up the buses for decades, right? So how do you do it?
Is it the harder part? That's a good question. But we certainly have our work cut out for us. Luckily, there's no shortage of great ideas, and we already have 10 plus years of different strategies to speed up buses, going all the way back to select bus service, partnering with the MTA. And we're learning, about what kinds of approaches have a greater or lesser impact on moving the buses faster. And really, that's going to be our focus going forward is how do we really meaningfully speed the buses up? How do we really save New Yorkers, especially working New Yorkers, time in their commutes? And it's really a twofold strategy, right? There's sort of a street design and operational approach with bus lanes, busways. I think we're going to need to look at greater forms of keeping those bus lanes clear. We want to keep looking at traffic signals as one strategy to move the buses faster. So certainly there's a street design aspect, but enforcement is also really critical, right? Like I said, we need to keep the bus lanes clear. We need to keep them moving, and we really need people to respect buses, bus stops, bus lanes. So that's also a really important part. So our team is working really hard right now to double down on our strategies, and we'll be sharing a lot more on that in the near future.
You guys have already taken some action. You've taken some action just in the past few weeks, restarting some projects that had been stalled under the Adams administration. I'm thinking of McGinnis Boulevard, the street changes there, 31st Street in Astoria, the Madison Avenue bus lane here in Manhattan. Talk about the approach. Is there a fundamentally different approach now under Mayor Mamdani than there was under the Adams administration?
I think there is. I mean, we want the data and what we hear from communities to really drive the decisions, right? We want to put the investments where they're going to have the greatest impact. It shouldn't be driven by politics. It shouldn't be driven only by interest groups or the loudest voices. We absolutely want to hear from a cross-section of communities that we're working in that's representative, But at the end of the day, our job is also to make those improvements and to have that impact on New Yorkers' daily lives. And really, politics shouldn't be part of that.
Mamdani talks a lot about pushing forward big, bold ideas, including at DOT. And I was thinking about your early career with the Bloomberg administration. You were working under Jeanette Sadiq-Khan as DOT commissioner, who was kind of seen as a visionary, right, when it came to bike lanes and pedestrian plazas. So it's not as though you're reinventing the wheel, right? I mean, do you see yourself as sort of carrying on that legacy and doing some of the work that has already been going on for years?
I think you're right that to a large extent, a lot of the solutions, a lot of the strategies are pretty well known, and it's really about the follow through at this point. So that'll be a lot of the focus. But that being said, I do think there's still a lot of room to aim higher, to be bolder, especially when it comes to buses, but also with traffic safety, with Vision Zero, with how we design our streets and the public spaces, the public realm. So it's a little bit of both. A lot of the focus will be just let's follow through on the things that we know work, but we certainly also want to keep pushing the envelope.
What's your message to drivers? Because I suspect there's probably people out there listening who, they hear about bike lanes and bus lanes, not to mention congestion pricing. And as drivers, they feel sort of besieged by all of the transportation policy that we hear about. What do you say to that?
Well, I think the mayor's been clear that we want to make it a more affordable city, no matter how New Yorkers get around. Every project we do is designed based on the context, right? So if you're doing a project in Midtown Manhattan, that's not the same as the South Shore of Staten Island or North Bronx or Eastern Queens. And we're always taking that into account. We're looking at the data, we're hearing from the community, and it's about balancing all those different considerations and laying out different options and making a good faith effort to develop the right solutions. But at the end of the day, we have our goals that we're working towards, and that's what's driving things.
Just our last minute or so, let me ask you about your own personal habits. You're a mass transit commuter, I assume. Talk about your commute to work every day.
Yeah, I take the train generally. I've always been a transit guy.
And I've read you're a cyclist as well. You ride your bike sometimes.
Yeah, the older I've gotten and having kids, I'd say I'm not as intrepid as I was, but I still love biking. And I got to say, City Bike in particular has totally been a game changer for me, and that's really what I use at this point. So yeah, transit most of the time, City Bike some of the time, definitely buses now and then.
Well, I was going to say you took the bus here, as a matter of fact. I saw you posted on social
That's right,
media.
the M20, yep, up from our offices. I take the bus quite a bit, especially when I'm schlepping things with the kids. Yeah, the M20 on the way here.
We'll see if we can make it any faster.
I see some room for improvement.
All right, Transportation Commissioner Mike Flynn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.